Hey everyone! So today I want to do something a little bit different, which is I want to create an asynchronous brainstorming session, open source learning. And what do I mean by that? Well, I want to bring a challenge to you and open source our collective wisdom on it. So usually I share a practice that I use really often for a challenge that used to feel like a challenge for me, but now doesn't feel so much. But today I want to bring a challenge that is still it's still live for me. I have resources around it, but it's still come up sometimes, which tells me that there's more freedom to be had and more wisdom and learning to be gleaned from it. So I want to open it up and include you in the process. And the challenge is feeling behind and judging your progress. And so if you've ever felt behind, feeling like you're finding yourself judging your progress, or maybe that used to be you and you don't experience it anymore, but you learned some things. Either way, if that is relevant to you, then that's who I'm speaking to and who I'd love to invite into this process. So my intention with this is just to share a bit of my experience and some of the insights that I've learned, and then just to open it up for experiences and insights that would be in service to our community. And when I say community, I'm really talking about the slow pacers, the deep divers, the snail creatures, which is why I've got an amazing drawing from a friend of mine, Haley Brown, right here. The bee slow turtle. We got it up here with some mushrooms. Yeah, we got some mushrooms. So that just feels resonant for this topic and conversation. So, okay, feeling behind. What does that look like? So I'll share just briefly what it looks like for me, and then go into specific insights I've gleaned, and then the questions that are still here for me. Okay, so for me, what that looks like is it shows up as a kind of orientation toward the world, like a kind of frame where like there's some sort of standard, or there's something ahead that it's like not quite catching up to it, and like there's something to compare to, and it very much has to do with time. It feels like it's in the this plane moving forward and back. And it also connects for me of like feeling young or not knowing things. And a lot of folks that I talk to find that they experience that they judge their pace, especially because they tend to be slower pacers like me, and having these thoughts that they should be further along, or they find themselves ping-ponging back and forth around it. I should speed up, I should be further along, but then also, anti-capitalism and self-care, and so slow, and then there's a kind of battle going on there which drains a lot of our creative energy. And so basically the way that I see it is it's just old frames, old misunderstandings that I've sort of brought from a different context, and there's an opportunity to wake up out of them layer by layer, or maybe all at once. So let's go into the insights I've gleaned, which is number one, change context, question mark. So for that, let's think about a plant that needs to be moved to a bigger pot, right? Every so often, the plant's growing, it needs to be moved to a bigger pot. And we don't have pots, but we basically do as humans. So a plant, if it doesn't get moved to a bigger pot, and it needs to, it doesn't really start to do so well. So humans don't have pots, but we have contexts and containers, right? We have an ecosystem, we have homes, we have relationships, we have work, play, hobbies, different things that feel like maybe school, different things that feel like containers that we can expand into, ideally. And when I reflect on the times that I felt most behind, when that pattern and that mental pattern was active, that story, it's when I was outgrowing my pot and outgrowing my context. And it usually meant that I wasn't in a supportive container where I could stretch and really like expand my wings and feel that I could rise to the occasion. Usually I was either in an environment where I didn't feel like I was learning much anymore, or it felt more like, it didn't feel like rising to the occasion, it felt more like demands, like top-down kind of demands, rather than me following my internal interest and expanse. And so that's the first question, which is your context, is my context, is our context supportive and expansive for the way that we want to grow? And especially if you're like me and learning is one of your top core values, and you can't live without it, then it's really important that this context piece is important. And so it could be time. It could mean that it's time to change context. So that's one. The second piece is abstract to concrete and hope to trust. So hope plus abstract is a recipe for a lot of angst. So times when I had a vague, abstract idea about something that I wanted, plus a tremendous, you see I'm doing it with my hands already, a tremendous amount of attachment to it, I felt like I was spinning my wheels and going nowhere. And so the shift was from abstract to concrete, and so having a specific, concrete, tangible experience in the world that I was going for, and a feeling of surrender and trust. That's what enabled the trust. Part of what helps me with that is very live for me right now, is a little bit of reframing goals, because I don't resonate that much with the word goal. So I like what might be cool. That's what I like. So it also helps me with the surrender, because I don't feel so attached to it, because I kind of realize I actually don't know what that would be like. I just have a sense based on the past. And so it's just something that might be cool. And that brings some lightness to it, kind of brings me to the next one, which is hard to soft. So that thought, I should be further along, or some version, right, comes up, and what do you do? What do you do when it comes up? What quality is here? Hardness, softness. So my experience is that if it's hard, then we're kind of stuck with it. It's much harder to change. And when something is soft, it's much more malleable. And I think we all know that from our sensory experience. And I find it's really the same with the quality of mind and heart. And so 2 ways that I experience that thought with a hard quality. One way is believing it. So if I go, yeah, that's right, I should be further along, I should be, you know, I can even see it and I can feel it. Like there's this closing in, there's this hardness that comes in. And, you know, you could kind of feel, you know, you could do that with me. You could kind of feel what that place inside of yourself is like when you go, yeah, I should. And then what's funny is the other way of experiencing that hard quality is when you sort of see what you're doing. You see that and you go, oh, maybe that's a judgment. I don't want to make a judgment. And so you gain a level of awareness over it. But then if once you do that, you're also bringing in more hardness by trying to push that away. Ooh, I had a judgment. That's bad. That's, you know, I don't want to think that way. I shouldn't have thought that thought, or sort of arguing with yourself. I should be further along. No, I shouldn't. That's wrong, you know. Then you sort of like, you might see what's going on there. But we're basically just repeating the pattern at just a new layer of awareness, which when we get lightness around it, we can laugh. So, which reminds me of a couple other qualities that go with hardness, which is that it tends to feel very high stakes. So if it feels like everything hinges on this, it's very high stakes. That for me, that is like a helpful indicator that, oh, I've gone into that place. Another is when it feels very personal, like, ooh, it's about me, it means something about me. When I'm going into that place, then yeah, that's also an indicator. And another one is, I called it serious self, which is, it's different than taking what you do seriously and your work seriously, but taking yourself seriously, that goes with the hardness too. So what about softness, right? So if hardness is collapsing under the thought and just believing it, yeah, that's right, I should, or fighting against it, pushing it away, then what would softness be? It would be some things that I've found for myself is a compassionate presence and a gentle, it's like a gentle curiosity, a wonder, a sense of this more sort of air quality and water. So the qualities, and again, it's sort of the flip. So the qualities that tend to go along with softness are low stakes, you know, like it's like, oh, this is just this moment, this is just a game, this is just right now. So low stakes, it's all okay, it's all welcome, and it's not personal, like, oh, this is coming up, but it doesn't mean anything about me or really anything or anybody. And a lighter sense of self, bringing in a little more divine humor, we could say. Yeah. So those are some of the insights that I've had around this challenge. And the fourth one up here is honoring rhythms and pacing. And I just wrote it because I know there's something about that, but I don't have much to say on it because I'm still like in deep exploration of it, and it feels really live. So I would love to hear what comes up for you around it, and you know, question mark, more question marks. I'll just put it to you. What else, you know? That's what I've got. So what else do you have on this topic? I would love to hear your wisdom, and I would love to just resource the collective mind, heart, body, the collective wisdom, and yeah, who knows where we'll go with that. So much love to everybody, and more soon.